How are we looking, Elsie? Elsie's behind the camera, making sure that everything looks good. Can you go over to the left, Elsie? More. There we go. What's up, everybody? I will be posting this video on YouTube. I'm taking a separate video to go on YouTube, so it's a little bit better quality, a little bit easier to watch. But I'll also post this on Instagram as well. I will probably do some time at the end for questions that anybody has if there's anything we missed. But yeah, it's our yearly Mid-State Mile recap with my lovely crew chief wife, Anna. We'll have a special guest, Elsie, our daughter, wants to come on as well. She's just behind the phone right now, so she's super excited to share her experience at Mid-State this year. So, no, Eric, go Buffalo. Let's go. You even got the buffalo quilt, dude. You should have asked for a dolphin one. All right, so we haven't rehearsed this. We're both really tired today. I contemplated postponing it, but we're gonna try to get some energy here, and hopefully all the thoughts start flowing. It's kind of interesting. We're like 2 weeks out ish, and it's crazy how you just get back into real life and you just start to forget a little bit about your experience. So it's good to rehash. It's good to remember the lessons learned because they're not always sitting at the surface. Like sometimes you got to dig a little deeper. Yeah, I can get the Dolphins quilt, Eric, and then we can do, a switcheroo. Except mine will be brand new and yours will be, covered in Cheetos and Skittles and all sorts of grossness from your kids, which is amazing. I want that thing to get used and abused. So yeah, I think it's good to do these kinds of things for us to remember, for us to process, to have a memory of it. And sometimes it takes a little digging and remembering to jog our memory. So let's see, where do we want to start? I mean, can you guys hear us okay? Is everything good? We're sitting in our basement because it's a lot cooler down here than anywhere else in the house. But yeah, let's start with, this is my third year in a row.
Yep.
Running the Mid-State Mile. And the first year, I had no idea what to expect. I trained really hard. I got third place, but I realized, wow, this heat is no joke. And it wasn't that I didn't train for the heat, but my heat training and my cooling strategy was just not. I was still inexperienced. I mean, I was probably a year and a half into running.
Well, you had only done 2 races before this, right?
Yeah,
Before
well, 3.
3.
A couple 50Ks and a 100-miler. But so yeah, the first year it was a really great learning experience. It kind of like opened my mind to what's possible out there. Second year, I felt like I did a lot more to get ready. Probably not as much for the heat, even though I tried. And my cooling strategy was pretty good last year. Not as good as it was this year, but the heat still took me out last year. So I would say coming into this race that the heat was probably my biggest concern, that I really wanted to make sure I overcame that, because what it would do, it would just raise my body temperature. My efforts were way too hard out there. Last year I was hyperventilating on my last lap. Like it was like you going at the same pace, but it was a crazy effort. And last year I felt like I still had a lot of life left in my legs. It was just the heat just took me out. So this year, going into Mid-State Mile, training wise, heat training wise, I feel like I nailed it. I got it dialed in this year.
Well, you started in February?
Yeah.
Was it February? You using the sauna blanket
Yeah.
to prepare for the Zion 100K in April.
Yeah.
And I think that helped a lot because you gradually increased your tolerance to the heat and
Yeah.
kept it going, as opposed to just blasting yourself at the end.
Yeah, like
the last
3 weeks
couple
or
weeks
4 weeks
before.
out before a race.
Yeah.
You know, 2 weeks before a race is your taper. You're supposed to be limiting your heat stress, your stress in general. But like last year, that's when I was doing a lot of my heat training. So I feel like I wasn't really adapted and I wasn't really recovered because I was adding way too much stress in taper. So this year I got this sauna blanket from my aunt, and it's just this like, I don't even know how you describe it, but it's just like a heating pad that you lay in.
It's like a plastic
sleeping
bag
bag,
heating
heating pad.
Yeah.
It gets crazy hot, like
So
167 degrees. And I would just lay in it and sweat my butt off. So yeah, I started in February, maybe a couple times a week. And as I got closer, I would do it more frequently. Probably a month out, I was doing it like every day or 5 to 6 times a week probably. And it would just go for like 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes an hour. But it put a heat stress on my body that I had to adapt to. So that was amazing. The temperatures here in Rochester were not hot before this race. It was in the 70s. It was very comfortable running weather. And I don't think I ever had to wear like a sauna suit. I didn't wear tons of layers. That's one thing I did last year. I wore all these layers to go running. I just went and ran outside. I ran when it was hot, but I was doing the sauna blanket. So I didn't worry about putting all these extra layers on and just sweating my butt off out there because I felt like the sauna blanket was enough. And so as far as training goes, preparation goes, that was a total win. And we can get into more of the cooling strategy once we get into this. But training wise, heat training wise, I feel like I got the monkey off my back that the heat is my kryptonite because I finally got through the heat of both days.
And you were saying, I remember you saying during the heat of the day, we know from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., that's when it's just really hot. And then 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., that's when you can just be really low mentally. But from 2 to 5, I remember you saying, I don't really feel that hot. I feel okay.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling anything that I did before. And to me, that was a huge relief because you had spent so much time preparing and researching.
The second day or just the first day? I was probably saying it more the first day.
You were definitely saying it the first day, but you did say the second day that you were feeling good.
Yeah.
Temperature wise, that wasn't really an issue for you.
Yeah, I felt cool out there. Like, and we can go into the cooling strategies with that too, but I felt the heat. I felt that I had to slow down a little bit, but it wasn't throwing my body chemistry out of whack. It wasn't raising my internal body temperature. And I think that's what ends up happening. You're able to regulate your body temperature better versus if your internal body temperature starts creeping up, even by a degree, it changes everything. So yeah, that was a major win. I would say as far as like training goes, this past year, I got very serious with strength and mobility work. So adding in strength workouts, I've been doing this mobility program it's called the Pain Academy. It's a daily thing. It's not very strenuous, but it's very beneficial. And honestly, it can be pretty boring sometimes.
Some of it's strenuous.
But
the one you had me do is strenuous.
Yeah, that was a more advanced one. But as
good.
far as like a daily mobility movement program, it's been great. Because last year at Midstate, I was having some IT band issues, which I've never had before. And I've also had some hip imbalances in life, like everyday life, and some like low back pain that I've worked through. And side note, my daughter is petting our cat right now. You can't see it, but she's pulling all the hair off of the cat. Can you stop doing that? That's so gross. She's about to knock it off. Go put it in the garbage.
Right.
So gross. Big pile of cat hair, like
Well,
right there.
It's hot here now, so
Oh my
the
gosh.
poor cat. She needs a little
Our,
bit of
our
TLC.
cat is not heat adapted. She needs a sauna blanket for sure. Oh my gosh, that would kill her.
It'd be so hairy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, I've been doing a lot of strength work. I wouldn't say excessively, but probably like 3 times a week I would do something more heavy-ish. And especially the closer I got to the race, I tried to have some more intense strength sessions. And I think that just helped with my overall durability out there because, spoiler alert, like I didn't really have any major physical issues that I was dealing with. I had zero cramping. I didn't really have any issues. So I didn't have any issues going into the race either. My training block leading into the race, I had Zion 100K in April, which was a pretty hard race. It didn't look hard on paper, but it was very hard. It was hot. And then I did the Breakneck Marathon in New York, which was a very technical, gnarly marathon with like 8,500 feet of vert for the marathon, and it was super technical. So I had that in my training. So I got a lot of vert in a lot of hard races and hot races, which I thought was awesome because I just got to be out in the heat and do some really hard efforts to see how the heat training was going. And then I did do the bike a little bit, but that was more I try to do the bike as if I feel anything. Like I rolled my ankle like 3 or 4 weeks before the race, and I just got on the bike just to be safe. I didn't want to re-aggravate my ankle.
And you were doing that for heat training as well. I mean, you can't see it, but there's a big blue tarp around our stationary bike that we have in our basement gym here. And it gets really warm in there, pretty toasty. I had it open while riding on it today, and I was just dying still. So
That's true. I did do that for heat
you
training
did
too.
do that with a space heater in there. Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the space heaters.
Yeah, I put a space heater inside the tent. I didn't feel like it got crazy hot, but it was hot enough to make me sweat. So I've been doing the bike a lot more after mid-state, and I think it's a good way to maintain your fitness, but then reduce the stress to your joints. You don't have the impact and the pounding. So I feel like that's a really good addition. I know Eric Kienle rode his bike a bunch when his car broke down. He's like, I'm just going to ride my bike a lot. There might be something to it if the top 2 guys are riding their bikes a bunch. You might want to throw it in there. But it's just it's a very good aerobic. And Becca, my coach, she says that riding the bike is great for leg turnover because sometimes when you're out there doing long hill repeats, you just lose your leg turnover because you're just walking or you're hiking. But the bike helps you maintain that consistent cadence where you got that leg turnover and your legs are like, okay, we can still move. And I feel like it's a great, like for me, it targets my hamstrings and my glutes really well. And it kind of replicates climbing, especially if it's like a little bit more tension on the bike or if I'm doing hills on the bike. So yeah, that's kind of training in a nutshell. Like I did a bunch of hill repeats. I did all the things that everybody's supposed to do, but my volume was not crazy. I don't even know if I got over 40 miles a week. I might have one time, but 40 something miles a week with vert, 35 to 40, sometimes 30, mixing in the bike, mixing in strength work. I mean, I was doing between strength work, mobility work, I'd have to look, but it was probably 15 hours a week worth of training. But like I said, the mobility work's not crazy stressful, but I was doing it daily. So yeah, coming into this year though, I would say mindset wise, I felt ready. I felt healthy, which is what you want to be healthy coming into this race. You don't want to have any doubts in your body. I had a 3-week taper, about 2.5 to 3 weeks, and I was going crazy because everything started hurting.
Yeah.
I felt so uncomfortable, but I realized near the end of the taper that it was just my body recovering, my body healing from the big spring that I had and all the stress I put on my body. So for me, I had to trust that my body needed a taper because Becca likes having a longer taper, and I think I like it too. It's hard mentally, but it's very beneficial physically because if you're going to be doing mid-state mile or any really, really long effort, 100 miles or more, like you want to be as recovered as you can because you want to be as, you want to fill your tank as much as you can. You don't want to go in with a tank half full because then you're just going to empty it really quickly. So long taper, I think really helped. So during the taper, I was spending a lot of time thinking about my why, which I wanted to really hone in on because last year, my why, I think I had a pretty good why, but I also was way too much in my own head last year. The biggest lesson I learned is that I have to be myself. I have to run my own race. And don't try to be somebody else out there. Like even Eric, who I love, I can't run Eric's race and win this race. I have to run my own race to win this race. I can't try to be like Eric. I can't try to be like anybody else. I have to be who God has called me to be out there. And for me, engaging with the people around me, getting to know people, encouraging people gives me energy. I know it takes a little bit of energy to talk with people out there, but it actually gives my soul energy. It gives my spirit energy. And for me, like, I have to be able to stay in that place mentally. Wouldn't you say? Like,
Yeah.
me being able to be, what I look like or how I'm acting when I'm like, even right now, I'm a little bit more engaged with like who I'm supposed to be. And you've seen me not like that.
Right. And I think that is probably one of the more challenging aspects of people dropping and having less people to pour into. And then, especially when it was just you and Eric, it became even more so I'm running my race, he's running his race. We're going to just do this thing. I don't know if you spoke life into each other as much at that point. I'm sure you did during the previous many miles. But once you started being more isolated out there, I could see the fatigue. I could see the, not the joy, but I could see some of that that fire that
Fading.
you get.
Yeah.
Yes. I could see some of that fading from the lack of ability to encourage other people.
Yeah.
Which definitely fuels you in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think it with this race in particular, like you need other people out there to be able to go the distance. So, I didn't want to change who I was just to be able to win. It's like if I'm going to go far, I'm going to go far being who I'm supposed to be. There's we probably talked about it last year, but the movie Cool Runnings, where the Jamaican bobsled team is trying to be like the Swiss because they're the best. But they had to have a come to Jesus moment where they just had to be Jamaican. That's their best is being Jamaican. And it's kind of funny because Eric Kienle is always like, hey man, you got to be Jamaican. I do have a little Jamaican in me. I have a great-great-grandfather that was from Jamaica. He was white. No shock there. But he was from Jamaica.
What?
So me and my cousin used to like call each other like, hey, we're Jamaican cousins. It was really funny. So I am kind of Jamaican.
That's funny.
Anyways, not to get off topic, but figuring out my why coming into this race, you have to have a very strong why. You can do all the training, but you have to really have a strong why. And it's okay if you're what I've seen with this race is my why has changed every year. It's been maturing, it's been being formed. It might have just been a very basic why when I started this race 3 years ago, and it might have been a very basic like why when I started ultra running. But my why has been maturing and changing over the years. I feel like it's deeper, it's more connected with who I am, and it's spreading out. It's like putting out roots. So I would encourage you, like, never settle for like one why. Have, and I remember asking you before the race, why do you want me to win this? Do you remember me asking you that?
Mm,
She's like,
I kind of do,
you
but
said
I don't.
because like
I don't remember what I said.
you said when you say you're gonna do something, you do it.
Right.
Or if I said, hey, why would you want to see me go very far? And it's like, because you're a man of your word.
Right.
But I also like I wanted to be in tune with like, hey, I'm not just doing this for myself. My family is there. My wife is there. My kids are watching me. Other people's kids are watching me. Other people out there are watching me. And I'm not you shouldn't do things for other people, but I also wanted to recognize that it is important of what you're doing and how you're representing yourself to the world, and especially to your kids and your family. So I wanted to be mindful of the example that I was setting. And do we not want all of our kids that we're raising to be who God called them to be, unashamed and unabashful, to be who God made them to be? And for me, that's an encourager, and that's someone that cares about other people. That's wanting to be there for other people when they're struggling. So it's a great place when you're out in the murder mile to be able to support and encourage other people. And that's something I tried to stay. I wanted to be that person the whole time, as long as I could. So, anyways,
Actually, it's probably a good segue to have Elsie come and
sure.
say a little bit. She's been very patient and quiet, and I don't want that to get ruined.
Here's our little Elsie. Elsie is almost 10. In a few weeks. So, Elsie, do you want to talk about your experience watching Daddy at the Mid-State Mile? And what were some of your fun
All right, what were you doing
parts?
with my you were crew chief. You were my crew chief. So what were you responsible for at the race?
Well, it depends. We did two different like types of, not really, kind of routines.
What did you do the first day?
The first day.
And speak up.
The first day, when you would come in, sometime, was it the second day I would run up with you, or was it the first day?
The second day.
So the first day he would come in, I would like wait at the finish line to see like if he was coming through, and then I would run back to the tent and let Mom know so she could set everything up.
Yep.
And then when he would come in, we would open the cooler and
give me my water.
And he would
right?
Get snacks and
you would give me ice and stuff, right?
Yeah. And after he left, I would refill his empty water bottle.
Yeah.
And then the ice, like bags of we had 2 or 3 Ziploc bags of ice that we'd refill constantly to put in like something.
My ice bandana.
Yeah, his ice bandana, so he wouldn't get too sweaty.
Yep. And then the second day, what were you doing?
I would run up with him and just like go to the entrance and wait. And Ben would be there too. He would go like farther. So
all the kids would stand and wait for me to come into the corral.
Except Rosie was probably playing with like.
And then you would run with me. Then you asked me what I needed, and then when I got in and sat down, what were you guys doing the second day?
Well, the second day, me and Ben like during the end, kind of near the end of the race, before we went to bed, me and Ben would put like the blanket, not
Little
blanket,
towels.
the towels.
Yeah, we
on
had
his
like
legs,
cold towels on my legs, right?
and we would get sponges, and we would like press it down on his legs, and
Yeah.
it would cool him off.
Yeah.
We'd do that a couple times until like he had 30 seconds left, and we'd take off his head towel.
Yeah, it was super helpful with cooling me down. So that was one of our strategies was I'd put my legs up and they would just cool my knees, just cool my legs, wipe them down. And it was very helpful. So what was there something that sticks out as like your favorite part of Mid-State? For
Any
you?
funny moments, good moments.
Well, didn't really happen when we were crewing Dad,
Mhm.
but a little later, I think the fireflies were almost like starting to come out. Me, Ben, Rosie, and then the two little boys that we were playing with. We were playing cops and robbers, and Ben was just like, "You're a cop" or something. And I was like, "Okay." I didn't even want to play. I was waiting for Dad to come, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna play. I'm going on break." So I played with
Going
them.
on break.
Yeah, and I played with them for a little, and then
You want to tell the story about your hair?
Come on.
kind of.
All right, so we had
It made it around
Alright.
the whole corral.
let Mom tell it or Elsie.
Do you want to tell
I'll
the story?
probably take over.
Okay. Well, we had a Mr. Fan combination thing. It was a little propeller fan and it had a spray bottle attachment. And I had it for the kids because it gets really hot and I don't have the time to listen to them complaining about the heat. So we had that.
I don't even know how it happened. I kind of know. But I had my hair out kind of like this, and I was wearing my hat. And then I was like, I had just had it here, and then I was just like spraying myself and stuff. And the next minute, my hair gets caught in it. And it was like
Fan.
it was so tangled that Mom had to use a fillet knife to cut it. And then like 20 minutes later, the same thing happened to Rosie, but she got scissors.
Well, someone had scissors.
Luckily.
Handy.
Glad it didn't happen to me. Could you imagine me running out there with like a fan stuck
Oh,
in my
yeah.
hair? Oh my gosh.
That'd
That
be
would
kind
be
of
great.
funny.
So other than your dad, who was your favorite runner out there?
Jill.
Jill? Yeah. Why is she your favorite runner?
I don't know.
You know, you told me earlier that you thought she was very strong. She is very strong, isn't she? She's probably stronger than me, honestly. She works out way more than I do.
And at the end of the race, when she finished, I gave her some flowers, and she thought it was
Aw.
really sweet.
It was
That's
very
really
sweet.
cute
I was
of you.
super shy, so I just like kind of waddled up and just like shake.
That looks about right.
That's a
Nice.
perfect reenactment.
All
I
right.
think she brought it home. I'm not sure. But
Well, I just want to say that it was very special. Like Mid-State is family, and it's very family friendly, family orientated, and it was probably the most special part for my race was having my kids there helping. You know, my other daughter would take my poles. And I remember the first year, you know, there was a guy that would take my poles. There was someone that would cool me down. And like my kids were doing that with Anna. They all found their role, and each lap they got a little bit more dialed in to what their specific job was. And you guys nailed it, you know, and you really looked like you wanted to help and you cared and you were helping. Like it was,
fun.
yeah, it was fun. It was something that was like, you guys are a little bit older now, so like the older you get, I feel like the more helpful you are, but it was less about, it was more about what you could do to help. And you guys were amazing out there cheering. All the kids were amazing, and I don't want to discredit their energy that they have, because it definitely is a break from the monotony of this trail. And you're out there just, you know, you're just kind of doing the same thing every time. But then when you have a bunch of kids that are just cheering you on and want high fives, like it totally gives you a boost. It was just so great to see all the kids out there and being so proud of their parents and just giving lots of energy out there. So I was very proud of you guys and how you stepped up to help, and it made it feel very, very special because you don't get to see me run a lot. So it was really cool to like have you guys be able to see what I can do.
Yeah, and I know I can't do it next year because I would run to the crossroads and I would get tired like halfway. I'd be like, am I there? And then I would see like a little pond or swamp or whatever, and I'd be like,
swamp.
I'm only halfway there.
Yeah, I know. I
And
feel like that too.
I was so scared coming back because I was afraid I was going to hear the whistle, and then I would almost get like trampled over by the whole stampede of runners.
Oh my god.
So I like heard it, and I was like, I just passed this like little opening or something. So I was like
ducking.
I was like, oh my gosh, I hear the whistle. So I just like ran as fast as I could.
Yeah, there was one time where the kids were coming back and they just like tucked off to the side. So, all right, Elsie.
So awkward.
Thank you for joining us. Give it up for Elsie Dana.
I'm staying.
No, you're not.
Well, you
staying.
can go over
It's
there.
too
You're
hot.
way too hot.
It's
All right,
too hot
bye,
for you
baby.
to be doing.
Future Mid-State Mile champion right there.
Still gonna
All right.
Shh, that's fine.
All right. Having the kids there is awesome. It's a family affair. We love it. The kids already want me to go back. Even if I don't want to go back, they're going to make me go back. All right. So let's jump into the race. I think I covered a lot of like the before stuff. So how did you feel coming into this race? Were you...
Honestly, it felt different than year 1 and 2. It felt calm. And although I was extremely anxious, my body knows what's happening. It knows it's going to be every 20 minutes. I'm going to start hearing the whistle go off, and, you know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it PTSD, but my body knows that it's going to be exciting every 20 minutes until it's done.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I felt this immense amount of calm. Like, we were packed early. We made it out there earlier,
Mm-hmm.
very relaxed. And honestly, we weren't really talking about goals and strategy and all of that stuff. Because you were just planning on doing what you needed to do and doing what your training was. That we didn't. I remember the first 2 years. That's what was the whole drive down, was just talking about, all right, we're going to do this for cooling, we're going to do this for food, and you need to remember all these things, and this is what my strategy is going to be like. And it wasn't like that at all, which was great. I think that's part of it is from experience. We know what to expect as far as how much time you really have in the corral and in the tent.
Yeah.
And what are the most important things. And honestly, you just kind of figure it out as you go. We had picked up some organizational tips from previous years that worked out great. I know Stephanie Hamilton had the hanging shoe organizer, which we used at
right after last year when I ran Mighty Mosquito.
That's right. We used it at Mighty Mosquito, and it was awesome.
Yep.
And it was great again. It came in so handy. I knew where everything was. Everything was labeled. If I wasn't there, someone could still find what you needed because it was all there.
Yeah.
Which came in handy when we had to move tents while you were gone and didn't even know.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, coming into it, you felt a calm. I felt like I wasn't putting pressure on myself.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go out and just be myself and see what my body would give me. And just execute the plan, and you have a lot of time to get things figured out, especially once you start getting settled into your pace. You know, I knew coming into this that I wanted to run a slightly slower lap than I had last year, so I was probably around a 17 minute loop to 17 and a half minutes, but probably right around
it was around 17
that I would get into my chair. And yeah, day one, so my biggest goal was like I wanted to be able to get to the heat of the second day. So day one is just about just doing all the things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to eat, you're supposed to drink, you're supposed to stay hydrated with salt and electrolytes and cooling. So we started cooling pretty quickly. I mean,
First,
I don't know if it was the very first loop, but
I think it was.
pretty quickly we were already cooling. I don't know if I had the ice bandana on the first loop,
No.
but within the
No.
first couple, I was like, you know what? Let's just throw the ice bandana on. And the way I do my ice bandana, it's the Nathan bandana that has a zipper. You open it up, you put the ice in there. But what we do is we put the ice in a Ziploc bag, so that way it's still cooling me, but it's not dripping down my body and soaking me and soaking my feet. Because that was the biggest mistake I learned the first year, is that my feet got soaking wet.
It's also very easy for crew to just take a bag out and put a new one in. So we
Yeah.
didn't have to be fumbling with ice.
Right. And then you started pouring all that water into a 5-gallon bucket, which was then used
That was the
for the
gross
cooling-
bucket.
gross bucket, but you use it for the cooling towels. So my cooling strategy, we implemented it pretty quickly. I was wearing some outdoor research like sun gloves, and my strategy was I got these little like 3x3 gel ice packs, and I don't want to get into all the details, but you can search Palmar Cooling, Palmar Cooling. So basically, long story short, you have this glabrous skin cells in your face, the soles of your feet, and the palms of your hand that you will heat and cool your body way faster through these surfaces than any other parts of your body, more than your groin or your armpits or anything like that. So my strategy was I was going to put these gel packs in my hand, in my palms, and while I'm running, they're cooling me down. And the gel packs would be not cold anymore by the time I got back from a loop, so I just swap them out, put a new one in. But what we started doing not long after that was we'd put the gel pack in against my skin, and we'd put ice cubes on the backside of that. And that helped extend the life of the coolness, so I could get through a loop and my palm would still be cool. So it would be hard to use the poles with those because I didn't want to damage the gel packs. But through that whole first 12 hours, I was doing that the whole time, and I think I even started doing it into the night because it was still pretty warm.
You were still warm, even though
I was
it
still
was
pretty
getting
warm.
cold
So I'm
for
like,
us.
you know what? Why not just keep it going? So, but through the first day, heat of the first day, it wasn't as hot as it's been, but it was still in the 80s. I mean, but I felt cool that first day. I kept asking Anna coming into the tent, like, does it feel cool to you? And she's like, yeah, it feels a little cool, but it's still hot. I'm like, I felt really comfortable the first day, which is a huge win. So we get to the first intermission, the 12-hour break. Every 12 hours, you get a 20-minute intermission. So we did a sock change. You lubed up my feet again. Ben took that funny video of you doing that
Yeah.
I made a reel about. Loaded up with some salty britches, changed my socks, put on a new pair of shoes. I think I might have changed my shorts going into the night, put another shirt on, and away we go into the night. So first night, you got to settle in. You got to settle into the nighttime. You got to start having some fun conversations out there. And we had a blast just talking about all sorts of stuff out there. But the nighttime also brings a lot of people dropping. So until you get to that 24-hour mark, a lot of people drop through the night. And it's just the nature of it because you've already been out there for 12 plus hours. But got through the first night. I would say I didn't really have any major lows. I didn't really have any major lows until the end of the race. But the one thing I was struggling with the first night was I started to get super, super drowsy. Like each climb I would do, I was just yawning. And I just felt like this wave of fatigue just keep hitting me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. So I took like a caffeine pill, which I've never taken them before, but I brought some. So I took a caffeine pill. It was like 100 milligrams, and it perked me right up. And I was like, okay, great. Like it just slapped that fatigue right in the face, the drowsiness, woke me up. So we got through the first night, and my buddy Brandon Rizzo, he came down with his family to help crew and to just be around and vacation a little bit. So he went through the whole first night, which was great. And I got to go home. Were you there for the 8 o'clock? You were there for the 8 o'clock, weren't you?
No.
Intermission at night? The first one?
The first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
when I
she
did
left-
your feet.
Yeah,
I didn't
she
make
left
the
right
morning
after
one.
so she left after the 12-hour intermission, and my buddy Brandon stayed with me until the 24-hour intermission or slightly after that, which was amazing. Brandon's been there for a bunch of my races. We've done so many miles together in the mountains, and he has a lot of experience with me. So
He's responsible for your running career.
yeah, no, he's the one that got me into running to start
Yeah.
with. So shout out to Brandon Rizzo. He doesn't run anymore, but I kept it going. I still have hope that he'll get back into
He'd
it.
run with you anytime.
Yeah, but he's an animal. He's got the mindset. He's got the grit. But yeah, he was there with me, and it was just like, it's just nice to have someone there for you, especially someone that you care about so much and that knows you so well. He was just reminding me to just be who I'm supposed to be out there, reminding me to have those conversations, and remind me to just have fun. So it was just great seeing him every loop. He did great. He's such a servant. So it was great having him there. But then after the 24-hour intermission, Anna comes back into the game, and then Brandon had to leave. He had to start driving back to New York. So
So
he
can I
didn't.
tell that fun story?
Sure.
So we hadn't planned it. And we were kind of, this whole trip, as far as like vacationing, we were being very spontaneous. We left a day early just because we were ready and wanted to make the drive easier. It's a 12-hour drive from where we live to where the race is. So we broke it up into 2 nights. And we found out that Brandon and his family had to leave early to get back for a school thing on Tuesday. So they wanted to also break up the drive because it was really hard for them coming down, which meant my reinforcements to help watch the kids and keep them kind of occupied in that way they were leaving. So I decided, okay, well, this is how we thought of the race. Everything that was going to happen was just part of how the race was going to be. It wasn't a positive or a negative thing. It was neutral. So if something happened to you during the race, that it was a neutral thing. This is just how this is. And so that's how I approached this situation where I had to have the kids with me for the second night, which was not part of the original plan, but it was just part of how the race was supposed to be. So we emptied out our suitcases, stuffed it full of the bedding from the hotel, snuck it out of the hotel, and brought the kids to the race, and decked out the inside of the minivan with a little bed and pillows and blankets and all that. So the kids had a whole little car
what time
camp.
was this in the morning?
I didn't sleep very well, so I started.
But it was early in the morning.
It
on
was
Saturday or Sunday.
Sunday morning.
But she's already preparing for me to go into the night, and that the kids had to sleep in the van.
Yes, because we were.
Confidence right there.
Well, I knew we were going to be out there for a bit.
Yep.
I knew we were going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, that's really funny.
So we brought that out, and it was actually really great because the kids wanted to be there as much as humanly possible. They didn't want to necessarily go back to the hotel except for the pool. But other than that, they wanted to be there in the creek and catching frogs and hanging with their friends.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was
That's cool.
another thing that I wanted to say about how the mindset was neutral towards any and all changes. And I think that's really important because when you started feeling hot in the previous years or something was going wrong, it wasn't necessarily that that's bad or that's a deal breaker or that's the end. I didn't understand that because I don't run for long periods of time. If I'm running, you should be running because we're all going to die.
Yeah.
Like But I didn't know that you could be throwing up and then you could also keep running for 20 more hours after that. I thought that was like the end of it. So mentally, if something started to happen, it was more of just okay, very pragmatic. Let's fix this. This is not the end of the world. This is not the end of your race. So don't start thinking that that's the end of the race, because it's not. It's just part of the race. And I think that was a really important mindset that we both had, instead of this, what is this?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
And honestly, like,
which I did have one of those moments.
We also knew that later on in the race, as it thins out, that there are other people around to help. And that was something that, you know, talking to Anna about, like, hey, make sure that if you need extra help, lean on other people. And, you know, we shared a tent with Doug Moore and his buddy Larry and my friend Mark Holcomb, and I got a tent with those guys specifically because I wanted to have a tent with guys that were going to go deep, because I wanted Anna to have other people in the tent, you know. So Brandon got to connect with Mark's crew buddy, I think his name was Jason. So they were connecting all night. So that was something that I wanted to make sure, because in years past, everyone in my tent's done by the first night, and then Anna's just out there by herself.
I mean, that's fine.
Sure, you like being by yourself, but I also wanted to make
I'm never alone.
Like, you got to think about your crew's experience too. So I wanted to make sure that there was going to be somebody out there. And sure, like that second night, there was nobody out there in my tent, but for a good part of the day, because Mark made it pretty deep.
Yeah.
But also, there are people hanging around, Brandon Michael Clark, and, you know, there's so many other people that were out there supporting at the end, just to be there for you.
Oh, I had a ton of help, because when it came down to just the two of you, because of the live stream and the position of where our tent was originally, we were kind of in the dark and no one could see us. So Aaron and Eric had just gone out, and I was informed of, hey, people can't see you on the live stream. Do you mind if we move your stuff?
Yeah.
And I said, sure, but I'm going to need a lot of help. And within 2 minutes, all of our stuff got moved into right next to where Eric's stuff was. And everyone just helped me so much, so quickly, to get all of that stuff there. And I'm really glad that we moved anyway, because there was torrential. The rain was so much, and our tent was not big enough to keep our stuff and myself dry if it was windy at all.
Yeah.
Because of how heavy the rain was. So being in the bigger tent was actually really nice.
Yeah. Fast forward to the end.
It's just part of the race.
Yeah.
It was just part of how the story was going.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think there was just a calmness that we had, and honestly, like, I felt really good for most of the race until the end. So
you don't show a lot.
Yeah.
But even though I've known you for a really long time, and we talked about this a bit, it's hard for me to even read when you're really struggling, because if you're not feeling well, I don't even know unless you tell me. In normal life, you keep going to work, you just do your things, and I am oblivious.
Sure.
I think your only telltale sign is one quiet whisper of, I'm over this, or you just start getting a little quiet.
Yeah.
So I have to be more mindful of that.
But, and I would say, I just want to, like, kind of get back to the race too. Like, this race
How much time do we have on Instagram?
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, okay.
We'll see. I don't really care. It is what it is. The race is a very rewarding experience, because everybody out there is pushing themselves as hard as they can. It might not be for 40 plus hours, but everyone is giving it their all. And there were a lot of people out there in years past that were just out there for fun. And you can be out there just for fun, just for a training run, but it's not the same atmosphere. But this year, I really noticed that everyone really wanted to give their all, more so than I've noticed in the past. And that energy and that vibe it's real. Like that energy is real. And I just remember being out there, like, say after 24 hours, there's only a handful of people, maybe 8 or 10. And I just remember telling everybody, like, you guys are freaking warriors. I am so honored to be out here with you guys. Because how often in life do you get to spend time with people like that? Especially, I mean, there's a handful of people that I had just met, and we're coming from all over the country to just suffer out there together, because we are doing it together. We start every single loop together, and even if our paces are spread out. So not that I have to plug this race more, but it's very, very special to me, and it's something that I don't experience in any other race. I always look forward to making a trail buddy out there in different races, and I always seem to link up with somebody when things are hard, because it's you can go further when you have someone else in your corner. Now, side note, Tennessee Mile, I did 40 hours at Tennessee Mile on the same course, but it's only for a certain time, so I can go whatever pace I want. And I spent a lot of time alone, and it was way harder mentally than Mid-State, because Mid-State, there was people, there was energy, there was this vibe. Tennessee Mile, it's a different race, it's a different experience. It's still awesome, but it brought out way more than I thought it would.
I mean, the only people you saw were the cold crew people standing around a fire.
Yeah,
You had to run
exactly.
past us.
So into the race, the cooling strategy was working. The hydration strategy, I think, was working. That's something I'm still trying to dial in, is my electrolytes and my water intake and all that kind of stuff. But I try to stay eating. I ate a lot of fruit the first day, grapes. I grabbed stuff from the aid station, pineapple, watermelon, but ate a lot of grapes, fruit snacks. It was a lot more sugary stuff. And then into the night, I was like, I don't want any of that stuff. And then my buddy Brandon had a bag of combos, which I didn't even buy. He's like, I got some combos. I'm like, oh yes, combos. I ate the whole bag. I mean, over the course of hours. But
Poor
I'm like,
Brandon.
he's like, it's okay. I didn't need those. But like cheese, I can't remember if they were cheese or like pizza filled combos. But I'm like, dang, these combos are amazing. And then I had to make me some like tater tots in the skillet with like some summer sausage cut up. So I was eating those. You guys made some bacon, made some pierogies, but my palate changed the second day, and I was also drinking protein shakes. I mean, I don't know how many of
You
those.
had a lot of protein shakes.
Yeah, so like
You
the
probably had,
protein
like,
shakes. I mean, the protein. I know that I feel like I just felt like I needed it, and it's something I drink on a daily basis, anyways, in like everyday life. So the protein just seemed to like help. I don't know. I feel like I
It
needed.
has sugars in it, and
Yeah, it wasn't a ton of like, and
But-
like protein doesn't necessarily give you energy, but it's good for like recovery. And I was doing
Yeah.
so much muscle damage, so I felt like I needed to just have some protein. And side note, like I was getting very like my esophagus was getting very irritated from eating and drinking so much, and even just like eating so much like acidic, sugary things. It happened to me during Tennessee Mile that it was painful to swallow, even for multiple days after the race. Painful just to swallow, and I could feel it going down my esophagus. So that started happening in this race, and I was so tired of eating and drinking. Like normally after a hard effort or a race, all I'm thinking about is, or like a long day in the mountains, I'm just thinking about that burger, that steak, or whatever I'm going to eat. I didn't want to eat anything after this. And not to overshare,
I was gonna say, are you gonna share it?
but like I did not poop one time during this race. And that's something that kind of slightly led to my demise at the end, because everything was just so, like I was eating every 20 minutes for 41 hours and I didn't have one bowel movement. It's crazy. Normally when I stop at the intermissions, like things will chill out and I can get one out, but man, it was
No poop loops for you.
Yeah.
We'll have to do
No-
a poop loop.
ah,
I forgot
Again,
about Poop
don't want to
Moose.
overshare, but like I'm the kind of person that can't go unless I have to go. So like I didn't have to go, but like I really did. So I probably should have taken a little bit more time to try.
Yeah.
But as far as like what I experienced during this race, I spent a lot of time praying for other people because one of the things that I was learning was the more you think about how you're feeling and what you're experiencing, all of those little things just start to become bigger. Like that's what you're focusing on. So for me, like I wanted to stay present in the race, but I really tried to, if there was other runners around me, ask them how they're doing or just pray for them. Ask, like I remember asking multiple people, hey, what are you thinking about right now? What are you learning? What lessons are you learning right now? And it was awesome to just like hear other people's responses because there are a lot of quiet miles, just quietly putting in the work. When things get hard, people get quiet. But I'm always curious, like, what are you thinking about? Because everybody's thinking about something. No one's just like in la la land. So for me, a big part of the success in staying present was focusing on how I could be proactively encouraging other people, or like I prayed for my kids, I prayed for my friends, and it really helped me to get my focus off of myself and what I was feeling and put me in a more proactive place of positivity and just having that like positive spiritual energy. So that was something that, as far as like how I got through the race, and like I said, like things never felt really, really terrible until the end. Things were feeling not so great. But physically, the pain, the discomfort, all the things, it just was. It just was. Like it wasn't getting worse. It wasn't getting better. The loops were the same. Everything felt the same. I mean, everything was just like hurting. But it didn't keep me from running. So you just have to endure. You just have to take it. You just have to handle it. Like everyone's feeling the same. It's funny when at the 36-hour intermission, I was doing a sock change and Anna like touched my pinky toe, which had my whole pinky toe was a giant blister because it was just getting jammed into the front of my shoe like the whole race, which I knew it was there, but it wasn't really bothering me that much. It was like low level, but like then she brought Becca. I was trying to sleep and she brought Becca in, and she like popped it and like tried to like dress it up. And then like looking back, I'm like, we probably should have like left it alone because it was a non-issue. Like it hurt, and if I kicked a tree root or something, like I was like, ooh, that would hurt. But like it was so low on my priority list. I'm like, just leave it. But yeah, I mean,
Next time I'll ask.
I know, right? Otherwise, like I was dealing with some chafing, like the liner of my shorts were kind of rubbing, and I mean, yeah, I was using salty britches, but when you're out there for that long and like you're sweating, yeah, I had some chafing. My feet were hurting. The soles of my feet were hurting. It's just an impact of pounding. My quads were pretty sore. Like I put like some ACE bandages on my knees after the 36-hour intermission. And then I just took them right off because I'm like, nah, these, I don't know, whatever. I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm not going to make things that much better. But yeah, I mean, I don't know I guess we can just kind of like jump to the end, I guess. We'll see what Instagram does.
Well,
but
that's the exciting part. So
I
don't know.
Yeah, so
I was like this. I didn't know what to do with myself because I knew we weren't supposed to talk about you guys hitting the course record. Like we can be excited for them, but we're not going to talk to them about it. But they knew what they
Yeah,
were
we
doing.
knew.
They
what
knew
it
that's
was.
where they were and whatnot. So once the course record was hit, I'm thinking to myself, again, this is not something that I would be running ever. But in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, you've beaten the course record. How much farther do you really need to go? But in my body just like started to get like anxious again because I didn't know when things were going to happen and when it was going to stop. I didn't know. Just that unknown is what keeps me. It's exciting, but it's still also anxiety inducing
Yeah.
somewhat. But near the end, I mean, it was raining. It was kind of beautiful though. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was talking and having a good time, just getting to know each other a little bit in the corral, and we'd see you come through in the rain, and everybody was just trying to help both of you,
Yeah.
which was great.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty much just me.
Yeah.
And anyone else that was there that wanted help. I know Brandon was there to help, and
Yeah. So, dude, Ben, I've missed you, man. You need to reach out to me. I thought you were gonna be at Midstate. What's up, Ben? Sorry, IG Live. Hi, Ben. You're my man. So, maybe we can like when it was just down to me and Eric. So, if any of you followed the race, it got down to me and Eric at the end. Eric won, but I think Jill finished somewhere around the 35-hour-ish mark. So Eric and I were the only two to make the 36-hour intermission. And honestly, like after that intermission, I tried to sleep every single intermission and I couldn't. I tried. I put white noise earphones in. I couldn't fall asleep, but I rested.
did you sleep at any of them?
I don't think so.
Oh man.
I mean, I maybe started to drift off in one of them, but anyways, it's kind of hard when people are sticking needles into your blisters to fall asleep. Yeah.
That was just one time.
So that was 36 hours. But I will say I felt really, really good after the 36-hour mark. And there were moments when it was just me and Eric where we both felt like we could go forever. And so I was out there with him for probably around 6 hours. It was just him and me just running loops out there. Eric was running quicker than me, so we would run to the first climb together, and then fireworks. It's 4th of July, people. It was a really special, like looking back and just thinking about the whole experience. Eric and I both really wanted to be there with each other. Like that's
It's guy love.
it's guy love between two guys. And I wanted to be there. I wanted us to be the ones pushing for the course record, and I wanted one of us to get the win. And honestly, like I think Eric wanted the win more than I did. I wanted to push my body as far as it could go. And I probably didn't want the win as much as Eric. I wanted to just keep pushing though. So it was really special being out there with Eric because going into the 36-hour mark, it's getting dark, right? Because that's 8 p.m. Have to put a headlamp on, and then we're running headlamp loops, and then it starts pouring. It starts raining, and then it starts pouring. And it poured for a really long time. Like, I mean, I lost track of time, but like several hours.
Me
like
too.
the course was super wet. You know, the little creek bed was starting to get wetter and wetter. My battery died a couple times when I was out in those loops. A couple times? I feel like it was a couple times where it gets super dim in like energy saver mode and I could barely see to get back to the loop, back to the corral. But it was just really fun being out there with Eric, and it was just like he calls it being in the pit. So I'll call it being in the pit. It was great to be in the pit with Eric. I only see Eric every year at Midstate, but we talk all the time. and I was just really stoked to be there with him. And as far as like, I really wanted us to get to the course record, and that was probably the biggest carrot that I had out there. It was to get to the course record because like it's really hard to remember. Like my watch stopped working because I had it on the wrong GPS setting. So after 122 miles, it stopped. So I had to get a watch from Brandon Michael Clark. And I just had the time because I could know where I was in the loop because it started at 8 a.m. So every loop was 20 minutes. So I wasn't even tracking. It was just a clock. So I can't remember like when I started to like really struggle, but it was probably before we got to the course record. And it was really like I really wanted to get to that course record and get past it, which was something that I was really fighting for, because Eric was running so strong. But I think some of the lessons that we've learned, what ultimately took me out is just accumulation of everything, not pooping for the whole time. I started to throw up because my effort, I had to like exert myself harder. So it was raising my heart rate and it was making my stomach feel unsettled. I was taking more caffeine to like deal with like the crazy drowsiness and mental fatigue that I was feeling. Like I just felt like everything was weighing on me. And I'm pretty sure I just like got to a point where I didn't think that I could beat Eric, and I just like let all these things start to pile up. We've been talking a lot offline and we don't have to do it on here in full depth. But the biggest thing that I wasn't prepared for was how to deal with when things got really tough that second night because I'd never gotten there. And I didn't let her or my crew into what I was experiencing enough. I would say subtle things like this is getting really hard, or like I'm really feeling it, or I'm feeling really tired. But and the one thing that I want to say is I did have a really really high level of drowsiness, mental fatigue that was just impacting my energy. Like I felt like I had no gas in the tank. I was just really weak on the climbs, and I just didn't have the pep in my step that I felt like I had before. Jack, lay down. Elsie, can you go over here? You are in the camera because you're in the mirror. You know that? The other camera. So I wasn't prepared with how to deal with this fatigue. And I wasn't bringing her into it because I thought that because my mind was so tired that I was just being weak. Like, just don't be weak. Just be tougher. But it was a physiological thing that was happening because I experienced it the first night, super drowsiness, and then I took some caffeine and it like went away and I felt sharp again.
Well, and that's the neutral mindset.
Right. The neutral mindset, like I should have just said, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing like crazy levels of fatigue. My legs feel like they're lead. My stomach is going because I haven't pooped the whole time.
I had no idea.
Can we please problem solve these things? But they just kept saying like, what do you need? What do you need? Or like, do you need anything? And I would come into the corral and I would just say like, no, I'm good. I wasn't good, but I didn't have the mental capacity to problem solve anymore. And I needed them to do it for me, but I wasn't really like taking that initiative to say, hey,
this is the problem.
I need you guys to problem solve for me. Because after the race, I talked to Becca and she's like, oh, you probably just need to like load up on salt. I'm like, salt? She's like, yeah, salt. You probably should just load it up on salt. That could have helped you a bunch. So all that to say, a lot of things compiled at the end, but I wasn't bringing them into it. And I wasn't bringing them into my fight. And I wasn't bringing them into my world. And before this, I didn't really have to bring them in because everything was just clicking. Like everything was legitimately clicking for a very long time. And and then it wasn't. And I didn't bring them in. And I didn't think with how I was feeling that I could beat Eric. Now in hindsight, like, I should have brought you guys in. And the thing I recognized too was she's tired, Becca's tired, the people around that are helping are tired, but we have to prepare for that. Just like she prepared for the kids to sleep in the van, and I prepared for the heat, we have to prepare that when you have 40 hours, everyone's going to be so freaking done and just want this race to be over. That's why you need to make sure you have strategies in place and you know how to take care of your body in those circumstances. Eric was just clicking a little longer, and he says he could have kept going longer. And honestly, like, I felt if I was feeling as good as I did earlier, I would have been able to keep going. If I could have got my fatigue to go away, if I could have got a little bit more pep in my step, if I could have got a bowel movement, like, I probably could have gone a lot longer. But it happened the way it happened. I'm very happy and proud with how it went. I'm super happy for Eric. And there are still lessons to be learned. You know, I'll probably learn more in this than, I mean, what if I was experiencing all these things, but then Eric just finished or quit right before me? Like, I would have been like, okay, good. I probably wouldn't have learned all these lessons. And another thing that I want to say is, like, for me, I do like having little carrots in front of me to work towards. And once we got to that course record, and I was so tired, and all these things were weighing on me, I didn't have another little carrot. And it should have just been like, hey, one more loop. But at that point, you got the course record. The only thing left is winning. And that carrot was like, that could have been an hour. It could have been 10 more hours. I had no idea how long that would be. So it wasn't a carrot that I felt like it was like right there. So I needed to have.
Well, Brandon Michael Clark had told me, like, maybe we should encourage you to think about getting to the sunrise.
Yeah.
As like a morale boost and
Yeah.
something to work towards. Which to me, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, sunrise is so far away from now. That would discourage me, but he obviously knew what
It's only
he was talking about.
4.5 more hours. It's not that much in comparison to 40
Right.
hours.
Right,
So
right.
all that to say, you know, things happen the way they happened. I'm definitely going to learn lessons from it. And it's new territory for me personally. Eric, who won, got to 38 hours last year, or 39 hours. So he knows what that feels like to get that close. So now I know. Now I know what it feels like to get there. Now I know that the second night and the wave of fatigue that might come on me, I know that electrolytes can impact that. So there's a lot of things that, like, new lessons are being learned because I went as far as I did. And I'm super, like, I'm really happy with the whole experience. I'm happy with how my body feels post race. No injuries. I was very sore for multiple days, but it was all a good sore. Things have been recovering well. I don't have any issues that I need to address. So I'm just really happy with all the training that I put in, because it definitely helped me to do this. And it's confirmation for me. But I don't know, is there anything else? Anybody have any questions?
There was one question early on about the difference between running in the heat with humidity versus like a dry heat, which you did experience running in a dry heat at Zion.
Oh yeah, running in the dry heat. My only race was Zion, and like that was like night and day difference, because you get evaporation. Like the sweat that you're producing evaporates and makes you feel cooler.
That was really weird.
Yeah.
That was so bizarre, because we live in a very humid place, and it was hot and sunny skies, and we were wearing sweatshirts because well, yes, people that were waiting around for the runners, I saw people wearing beanies, because as soon as you sweat, you got cold.
Yeah.
which doesn't happen here. You sweat and everything just gets wet.
Yeah.
And you don't feel any relief from sweating here.
Yeah.
So I definitely, it's definitely different
Yeah.
being in the humid.
So yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments or whatever.
Oh, can I tell them about the car?
What car?
So I had been joking. I was a little bit nervous of having the kids sleep in the car by
Oh, yeah.
themselves. They had a way to call me if there was any issue. But I left them with the car running and the air conditioning going because it was raining. We didn't want the windows open and any of that. I talked to a bunch of the people that were in the crew tents. Like, is it okay for me to just leave my car running all night? And they said, oh, yeah, it's fine. Don't even worry about it. I've had my car running for 2 days. And so I decided not to worry about it. And a few hours goes by. It had been pouring buckets. So I wasn't going to go out there in the rain just to check on them. But when it waned, I did go back to check on them. And
It waned?
It waned.
It rained?
No, the rain waned.
It waned. It waned out there.
The rain waned. W-A-N-E-D. The rain subsided, and so I went out there, and it looked like, I don't know why, but our kids had turned the engine off, but kept the fans blowing on full blast. So they destroyed the battery. I tried to turn it on, and it was nothing. So then I just laughed and said, this is now part of the race. This is supposed to happen. And
Was this before the race was over?
It was
or after?
before it was over.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And I was just laughing and joking with everyone, like, well, I remember Justin winning mid-state and then packing up his yurt bright and chipper before we could even open our eyes very well. He was out there tearing down his camp. So when Aaron's done with this race, he's going to have to jump the van.
Yeah. We got it done.
And you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon, for helping us with your
yeah.
truck, even
That
though it
was-
was very complicated.
But it was great.
So, yeah, I mean, you can answer the mustache question.
Are you going to keep the mustache going? I mean, I don't know. You keep messing with it.
I don't know, man. I mean, a mustache is nice, but it's also maintenance, and I just end up playing with it a lot.
So long.
I mean, it gets in the way when we kiss, which I guess we don't kiss as much as we should because I have it. So the kids don't want me to cut it because the kids get used to any.
They don't like change.
They don't
in
like
the
change,
slightest.
even though this has changed from what I was like last year. For them, like this is their dad now. So
they
like,
don't like drastic changes. They don't mind subtle changes.
Yeah, they don't like it when I make changes. So
you're gonna have to go back to mid-state because if you don't, that's a big change.
Is that thing still recording, babe?
I don't know.
Hold on a second. Okay, it is. That was kind of Elsie's job to make sure the other camera was recording. All right. Anybody else have any questions? I can't think of anything else. I mean, there's a lot of lessons learned. There's a lot of things that go right, and you know, I'm just really grateful. I'm really grateful for everyone that shows up and throws down. I'm proud of everyone I got to run with. There was 2 14-year-old kids out there that did amazing. There were so many people through the first night that pushed themselves so hard. And like, that's just why I love coming back to this race. That's why I love having my family around, because you don't get to see this level of dedication in other races, because you're out in the woods, people pop in and out of aid stations very quickly. You just don't get to see it right in front of you. So huge thank you to John and Becca for putting this on. Like, they don't have to, but it's their passion, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I'm so glad that I decided to do this race for the first time, because in 2021, like, it scared me. It intimidated me. And that's why I felt like I had to do it. And it still kind of intimidates me, but I feel way more capable now than I ever have before. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's something everybody should try because it's not like any other race. It's not like any other ultra. And I feel like you're able to learn so much more about yourself out there because you're out there with so many other people and you get to see all these other people and hear all their stories. So, I mean, if you're like an outgoing person and you like being surrounded with like-minded people, because it, like go do it. Just put it in your plan. Like sign up January 1st and just make it happen. Like we plan it. We book a Airbnb or we book a hotel or whatever. Like we just get yourself there. Reach out to me, reach out to other people and say, "Hey, there's so many podcasts that you can listen to learn all about it, learn all the strategies, all the mindset, but just do it. Like if it scares you, if it intimidates you, if you think I could never do that, you're wrong. You could do it. You can do it. It's very simple. Like Eric says, how far can you go when you have an aid station every mile? You can prepare for it. But you need to have a big goal. You need to have something that intimidates you and scares you. And now it just becomes like it's becoming normal. Sure, I have to find something else that scares me. Aren't you thrilled about that?
Yep.
But what
Great.
keeps me coming back is the amazing, like, I can go so far in this race, and it's cool to just go really far. But it's awesome to go that far with other people, with people that are family. Family. In every sense of the word, like we're family out there. I mean,
It really is like a family reunion every
I've
summer.
spent 70, well, not including last year's mid-state, like Jill. I've spent probably over 100 hours out there on the course. We did 40 hours at Tennessee. She was out there for 35 this year. And then last year, it's like you live so much life on the mid-state mile. And even if you're only out there for 12, 13, 14 hours, something like that, like if that's the best you can do, I guarantee you're going to learn more about yourself in those 12 hours than you would ever running any other 12-hour race. It's just there's something special that happens out there.
Yep.
There's this communal energy that is tangible. Like you can feel it, you can sense it. She can sense it, and she's not even running it. Other people that come there can feel it, the energy, the atmosphere.
It's a great race to crew. I mean, I love when you do loop races because then I don't have to chase after
You don't have to move.
I don't have to move my stuff. I can just set
Chill.
up and I can chill. And so there isn't a lot of time to chill, honestly, between trying to update people. I'm always on my phone or your phone in between the loops. I'm like, man, if you keep coming in every 17 minutes, there's only 2 minutes for me to do anything for myself. But it's great because I get to see you. And
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
I felt very confident this year
Yeah.
crewing you. It's now more part of my wheelhouse. I mean, there's still plenty of things to learn because it's not something that I have experience with as the runner, but I can also learn how to gain experience from crewing and learning how to do aid and kind of like first aid and that kind of stuff, which is more of how I'm wired anyway. Like I don't think we're ever going to switch where I'm running mid-state and you're crewing me because it'll be really boring and then we'll just be crewing everybody.
Yeah.
I'll do one lap. Yeah. But it's definitely I love going because it feels like a family reunion every summer and we've grown to know these people well, and I love getting to see everybody and walking in there and everyone's like, hey, I remember you. And as someone who I don't really feel like an athlete in that kind of sense. Like I'm not the type of person who's going to go and try and compete. I'm not competitive at all. I wanted both of them to win. Okay. I need to share this as I want both teams to win because that's how I am. I didn't want one of them to win. I was so happy that it was Eric and Aaron, but I really wanted both of them to be first place, and that's just not possible. But it was such a great experience feeling like part of that unit.
Yeah.
Like you and I just work really well together.
And I think one thing that we took away as far as the crewing goes, like she said, that's her strength. That's her skill set. She feels like more connected to me and more connected to the sport because of like she gets to actually use all like she's being who God made her to be out there just as much as I am. And she's finding joy and fulfillment and satisfaction out of that. And we're demonstrating that to our kids. Like this is how you work together as a team. And it always brings us closer together. It always just reminds us of how much we appreciate each other, how much we value each other, how much we value our family. And I just can't say enough good things about it. And is there anything you would want to say to a wife or a spouse of someone doing mid-state? Because I know like there are some people that maybe their spouses don't understand or feel as like they understand like why they do it, right? Because I know earlier on you really didn't understand why I was doing these things, but like would you not say that mid-state has helped you more than any other race for you to feel connected and understand why I do what I do?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been to a bunch of your other races, but mid-state is definitely different. Mid-state was the first race that I went to. It was the second race that I'd been to that you had ever done. And I remember being there, and when it was over, that's when I was really convinced, like, okay, there's something more here than just running for the accolades, because it didn't really matter. This sounds bad, but like I loved when people came in on their last lap and they were done and they were spent, because people just enveloped them with love and support and cheering and so much goodness that I loved seeing it. Even though that was like the hardest moment for them, it was so beautiful too. And you don't see that in other races necessarily. And you think about, what do you get for winning mid-state? You get bragging rights, you get the quilt, you get a cool trophy. I think you got just as much out of each of the times you've raced, that it's helped you grow as a person. It's helped me grow. It's helped us grow together.
Yeah.
And as far as like encouraging spouses or support or partners or whatever, it was a big jump for us, for you to get into this sport, because we had no idea. You weren't a runner. I was definitely not a runner. But one of the things that I think has really helped with our marriage and our relationship is, if this brings that person joy, then why not? Say yes and see how it can help you too. So even though training, I mean, you train 10 to 15 hours a week, which means that I'm also training in a different way, 10 to 15 hours a week, supporting you in this. But I also know that there is that day coming. I know that mid-state's coming. I know that we're going to have an awesome family time at mid-state. We're going to be anxious until it starts and sad when it's over. Also relieved when it's over. Mm-hmm. But it's something to look forward to. It's truly one of my favorite things to do, is when you do races where I can actually crew you and not have to like find you on a map and stuff and follow you around. I really do love doing that.
So like a 200 miler doesn't sound like fun? Driving around Arizona or Utah or anything like that? No?
No.
I think I'll have to get my bros in for that one.
Not really.
Recruit some other help. But yeah, like this is like, we have grown. I've grown as a runner so much because of this race. I learned so many lessons that set me up for success. We like, she keeps growing. and it, like I said, it just brings us closer together. And honestly, like I couldn't do this without her support, and she knows that. Like she knows that she has to have full, like, she if I feel like I like
I could make
I'm,
this so much harder
you
for
can
you.
make it so much harder.
I could.
Yeah.
If I didn't support you, or if I gave you a hard time about every time you had to go out and run, or I'm like, oh, you're
If
signing
she
up for
made me
another
feel
race.
guilty about it, I would totally change what I'm doing. Let's
Right.
do it, Ben.
But I'm the same way too. If I were
Right.
to, if you didn't support me in something,
But that's
that I
something
was
that like
interested in.
this
Yeah.
sport has helped us to realize how important that is to do, because before I started running, and this is now we're just kind of talking, which is fun. It's not about mid-state, but it's I didn't have anything extra I was doing. So it was just family stuff, work stuff, whatever. But now that I'm doing something for myself, and we're both trying to explore, like, are there things we can do for ourselves, and can we support each other in that? So obviously I've been doing a lot more, not obviously, but I have been doing a lot more in this sense than you have. But I've also been trying to encourage her to find some things to do that she wants to do. And I think we can both be 100% supportive of the other person. And it's not like, okay, I'm doing something and she's going to make me feel guilty about it so that I don't do anything. It's like, no, she's going to be fully supportive of me within reason, obviously. But then also, like, I want to be supportive of her to do what she wants to do. And, like, let's just make it work. Because I think that's how life is meant to be lived. So, this sport, and specifically mid-state, has really helped us to do that. I think, as a family, and for her to really understand why I do what I do, because I don't do it just for the accomplishments. Definitely not for the accolades, trophies, course records. Like, they don't really make you feel
It doesn't
as
last.
it's not
Yeah.
it's not the satisfaction that I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for who I have to become to do that. Because the man that I have to become to be able to do those kinds of things, like, that's why I do it. And I want to have a deeper reason why. And I just really like challenging myself. I don't feel the same if I'm not training, if I'm not moving.
Oh my gosh.
Even
you are so restless.
Even in recovery week, I bought a bike.
So restless.
I wasn't even back for 2 days, and I bought a new bike so that I could just start riding. And I've been riding a ton. And it's like I just do better when I'm moving. And she knows that. Like, I'm not really fun to be around if I'm, like, not moving.
No.
Or didn't get a workout in that day.
That's why I fully support it. Go out
So
there and get your wiggles out, and then come back.
So anyways, that's mid-state. I mean, obviously there's so much more that we could touch on, but for us it's a super special race. I keep saying that, but it's check it out. Like, if you're wondering if you should do it and like, oh, I don't know, just do it. Just show up. And if you really want to know what mid-state, the Murder Mile, is like without the pressure of that 20-minute clock, sign up for a race on the Tennessee Mile. You know, you don't have the heat, but you'll learn the terrain, you'll learn the course, you'll get to know the people out there. They've got like a 6-hour, a 12-hour, a 24-hour, a 40-hour, which is what I've done. But you don't
Are you
have
gonna do that again?
I don't know. We have to talk about
We
it.
haven't talked about that.
So, but that was a fun experience too, in its own way.
It's funny because on our drive back home from Mid-State, you were like, I'm doing Tennessee Mile. I'm like, yes, you are.
Well, last year I felt like I had to do Tennessee Mile because I needed the experience going through 2 nights.
Yeah.
Because it was unknown territory. So yeah, like, if you're considering doing mid-state next year, sign up for Tennessee Mile. Do 12 hours out there. Do 24 hours out there, and just enjoy the experience. Get to know what it's like. Mark, you gotta convince your wife, man. You gotta. That's all on you, bud. Have her listen to the late portion of this interview. I will be putting this on YouTube. And honestly, um, like I want our story to be an example to other couples because I remember being at Tennessee Mile. There's people that are out there running like with other spouses. Remember that one couple that like there was a guy and a girl. They were really good friends. Their spouses had no interest in running,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
they just came and they ran together. And it's like
They
I
were
mean,
great.
they were great, but like I don't know. For me, it would be really hard if my wife wasn't involved. It'd be really hard if my wife didn't understand it. And I know it was a very it probably it probably took a little over a year and a half before she really started to understand why I do what I do. Because I even ran Mighty Mosquito 100 miler in 2020, and like I think you started to understand, but like you were like, okay, are you done now?
Did
Like,
you get your fix?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get it out of your system?
Well, because you also trained really hard.
Yeah, I trained a lot more
And
than I needed to.
the way that you approached your training in the last year has been like a night and day difference. And I like that your approach to this sport is for longevity. Like you're
Yeah.
not trying to break all these records and then break your body and be a complete useless lump for the rest of your life because
Yeah.
you got some, you did something at some race and
Yeah.
you're hurting for a long time or forever. Like
Right.
I don't want that for you, and I'm glad that you have that mentality. Like I'm doing this to better my body for the long term. I
Yeah.
want to be healthy for a long time. This is how I'm going to do it. And I think everyone should have something that they do to help with their longevity. Even if you don't like doing it, like me, I don't enjoy working out, but I do it because of the health
Yeah.
benefits. So
Well, shout out to Anna. She started at 75 hard when we got
Oh.
back from Mid-State.
and you didn't do it with me.
Yeah, I'm too big of a pansy. It sounds too hard, honestly.
Oh my God.
I already do so much. I'm just like, okay, so what? I gotta read a book.
I gotta
every
read
day?
a book.
That's probably the hardest part, honestly.
Probably.
I can do everything else, but reading a book, ugh, come on now. So yeah, it took us time. It took
It's
her
not
time.
that hard.
It took her time to understand. Yeah, I'm too much of a cyclist. Maybe if I could read while I was riding my bike, I could inside actually.
You could, yeah.
All that to say, we have grown together through this sport of ultra running, and it took time for Anna to really find her place, find her role, and honestly our kids too. Like I started running when our kids were a little bit older, I mean Rosie was still young, but like they started to get older, they're more self-sufficient, and I couldn't have done this any sooner than I started. Like I really couldn't have.
No.
So if you do
Yeah.
have younger kids, like just understand that season that you're in, that it is what it is. Do what you can, try to work around your family's schedule, but it doesn't mean that your wife or your significant other or whatever can't learn to understand why you do it and appreciate it. I do hear a lot of people that just don't understand why I do what I do. And there's always going to be people like that. I mean, a lot of people in my family don't even understand why I do what I do, but like she understands why I do what I do, and that is huge. If she didn't, it would be really hard. But that, like I said, that was a journey, that was a process that you
Yeah.
got more and more exposure, and Mid-State was a huge way for her to feel really connected. And honestly, our kids feel more connected to why I do what I do as well. So,
And it's just helpful to understand how you're wired. Like you're wired totally different from me. I
Yeah.
will express myself through learning things. Like I like to learn how to do new things creatively or technically or with my hands. And you have always really liked to do hard things and push yourself and push those boundaries, which for me, I'm trying to do less hard things because I'm kept these kids alive for the last 12 years, and
Well,
they don't want to make that easy on me.
You do hard things. It's just a different.
It's a different kind of hard.
Yeah. Like,
so,
I could never homeschool kids every single day. That's way harder than what I do. I mean, I'd rather running is way easier and simpler and more satisfying and selfish than homeschooling and raising kids all day long. So she's amazing. You have a different level of hard that I haven't even, like, that would terrify me way more than the hardest race on the planet. I would rather do the hardest race on the planet every single day than have to homeschool our kids.
You don't want to teach them grammar and how obnoxious
and not
English
even that,
is.
like filing for the reports to the school district, balancing our budget, you know, especially when I buy so much on Amazon. Like,
yes, no more sports. I'm
her
calling it
job
at
is-
cycling. That's it.
her job
That's
is way
it.
harder than any training race that I ever have to do. So I'm blessed to have her in my corner. And honestly, like, I wouldn't have gone as far this year if I didn't have her. I wouldn't be able to be the man, the runner that I am without her in my life. And you coming into my life was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And it was we were both in a season of life where we were turning things around and seeking God and wanting to better ourselves. And like, God brings the right people into your path when you want to grow and when you want to change. He brings those people into your life that will help you and be a support and empower you and inspire you. And Anna is one of those people for me. And there's a lot of people out at Midstate that we are that for each other. So, like, if you're in a place in your life where you don't feel inspired, you don't feel that you have anybody in your corner, come to Midstate Mile. Or sign up for some other races, or do something where you're involved in a community, because Itchy Jack.
Yeah.
Itchy
Sorry.
Jack the dog. Do something that you surround yourself with like-minded people that are positive, that are improving themselves. So that's what Midstate is. Come and check it out. Come and check it out. I think we're good. Mountain bike, kayaking, road bike, and then a run.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm not big on everything. I just like.
You'd have to get a
all
really
the
nice
gear.
all
get
the gear.
get
We
a-
don't have enough space for any more gear.
So yeah, for everyone that's watching on YouTube, there was a comment that came up that there's a race called Big Hurt that includes mountain biking, kayaking, road biking, and a run. Yeah.
Running
that's
is
too many
supposed to be an
things.
inexpensive sport,
Yeah.
and yet it's not.
I can only dabble in cycling or gravel biking because I will get cut off very quickly, or I just gotta start making way more money to justify it.
We need a bigger house. We don't
I
have
need
enough
more.
space.
I need more cash jobs out there, so she doesn't know about it. So, anyways, I've never done that. I've never hidden money from my wife. Never done that before. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I see Ultra Dad, you just joined. I will be posting this on YouTube. I've been recording it with my other phone, so it's a little bit better quality. And if you want to give it a listen, that'd be awesome. Thumbs up and subscribe, all that stuff.
Oh, you're building a YouTube channel now?
No, I'm not building a YouTube channel. It's just my once a year Midstate Mile recap post.
Oh, okay.
So, anyways.
Like and subscribe.
I know, right? Like and subscribe. I should say that right off the bat. Just thank you, everybody, for all the love, all the support. This community online, even though it seems like it's digital, there are real people out there that mean a lot to me. So thank you so much for the love and support that you've poured out on me. I'm honored that I can be some level of encouragement to you, an example. But like, you guys all have these tools within your toolbox as well. You guys all have the potential to do amazingly hard things, and let this sport teach you all the lessons that it can teach you so that you can become a better person to this world. Like this sport really does help me to become a better person. I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful for all the people that this sport has brought into my life that I get to be impacted by, and I get to impact them and give back to them. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We love you. I don't have a sign off yet. What should I say to sign off? What should be my sign off thing? Peace out.
Oh my gosh.
Napoleon Dynamite.
I didn't wear a Napoleon shirt.
I didn't.
Very sad.
All right, everybody. Love you. Talk to you later. Have a happy 4th of July. Bye.
Keep all your fingers.
Yeah.